Folks, we've made it. We are back here once again this Tuesday, July 9th. Happy birthday to Henry out there. Henry being my dad, of course. Welcome on back for another fantastic edition of Traders Talk. We have all of our students actually normally inside our live trading room on YouTube today with the rest of us on social media. So big shout out to Brian, Laureen, Alan, got Leda, Larry, Phil, actually two Phillips right there, Philip M and Phil M. But all of our students that are normally a part of our live trading room, actually a quick little switch up there on YouTube. Alongside all of us otherwise on social media at Cyber Trading U. For anyone new to our social media streams and platforms, actually QR code on the top left right there at the end of this workshop. Just make sure that you scan that QR code, take you to a week-long trial to our live trading room if you're interested. But folks, my name is Josh Levitan. For anyone unfamiliar, I'm Fausto's senior instructor here at Cyber Trading. I've been with him for nearly 10 years, day trader following the big orders out there on level 3 and level 4. We have a huge traders talk lined up for us here for the next hour. Obviously, we're going to be going over a number of different trades, stocks that were on our morning watch list today, some larger caps that made a nice little move, NVIDIA being. And then on top of that, actually coming up in just about 23 minutes, the fine folks from Benzinga Pro, specifically, I believe Ryan Faloona joining me in Traders Talk coming up, going over just a medley of different topics, just, earnings season coming up, Tesla's big move from the last week or so, talk about Powell's testimony and how you could identify big moves using their platform, using Benzinga Pro. So actually, to begin, I want to start off with a question because I always love getting email questions that come in from traders, from students here. Oftentimes when there are no questions that get sent in, either that means that hopefully everyone is doing very well and there's nothing to be asked, or otherwise, which is commonly the case. I think maybe a couple of us may be gun shy from trying to ask a question that they need to ask. So, I love getting questions to begin from anyone. But actually right here, one of my favorites here, Leda, probably my favorite, number one. Leda, she had emailed me early this morning asking, would you be able to identify a ladder? What a ladder is. You'll hear myself and Fausto mention, it's a ladder effect, a ladder on the bid. So really quick, we take a lot of time to go over this in our workshop or in our main curriculum, might I say, in our phase 2 and then phase 3 stock courses. Actually, the phase 3 stock course actually continuing along today, this morning with Fausto. He just wrapped up a great live trading class. And then later on this afternoon, we'll continue with that. But, really, let's go over that for a moment there from Leda. How do you identify a ladder? All right, so let's go over this here to begin, and I'll try and go over it on a stock that we ended up trading from earlier today, if not on this QURE, then maybe on something else that had popped. So let's start here. We'll start here to begin. Now with that, though, I want to show my level 4. This is my heat map program for right now. So normally a ladder is when you tend to have an order pop up, whether it be on the bid or the ask. But the key with a ladder is that you are seeing it stair step up higher or lower, respectively, bid or ask. So this is not as much a ladder. This is not. This is an order on the bid, a stack of 2 orders out there. Stock moved up anyway, right? It made a hell of a move either way. What a ladder technically would be if like this order here at 440 pulls, and then they place it at a higher price level shortly after. And then maybe as the stock continues to move up more and more, they will pull the order from that price and then put it at a higher level from that point. So it's like kind of guiding the stock up on a more supplemental level. But we see this happen quite often. So as far as a ladder, this was not a ladder. Well, this one popped up pretty suddenly. So this is still not a ladder as much. It's just more of a new buyer, a new order stepping in on the bid. It adds to the stack of volume out there already. Maybe we'll catch it coming up. This is a good, list of icebergs here, 440, 460, and then now at 524 or so. So as we go through this workshop, maybe we'll see that one pull and then place higher. It could be a ladder of that kind. Zap we'll talk about here very briefly. Let's see if there was one on this one. All right, so you can kind of say this is a bit of a ladder, but it's a little sloppy. This isn't so easy on the eyes because there's actually other orders out there on the ask, and like they're pulling their order, placing it up and down here. They're like little like hockey here, these orders. So don't focus as much where my cursor here is Let's start actually even here. This is actually on a more micro scale. This is like a cleaner example on a more micro scale, smaller time frame here. But notice this is very clean where this one order pulls, goes from orange to that ghost blue color, means that that order got pulled effectively. Then from there moved up higher, then even more and more over time. And then what I was going to show you from there is really this one. Pulled higher, hold higher. Now the key with the ladder, at least, is as much as you may see this, as much as this is visible out there on level 4, and you might even see it on the order book just on regular old level 3, that's a great start. It's great to identify this. But folks, if this isn't going to make the higher highs, if it's not going to try and drive through the sell volume here, then this is all for naught. This is all for nothing. So I've seen ladders start, but it doesn't lead to anything overwhelming. It doesn't lead to a big move shortly after. So if it's not going to make a big move in your direction, it's going to make a big move, I guarantee you, just against you. So thankfully, this one ended up pushing up very nicely after like whatever this is, like the crack of dawn, whatever the hell this is, 4:45 in the morning. Hey, for anyone in Europe, in Asia out there, trading U.S. markets, this is a good time for you because you're more into your day. I think everyone here is still in REM sleep mode, but hey, little pop, nice breakout here at the time. But that's pretty much what a ladder really is. I could probably go across a number of different stocks. I'm sure we'll find one here or there, but that was a pretty clean example, at least that I could share with you. And again, maybe we'll come back to QURE live, and maybe this will turn into a ladder here coming up, right? So we'll take a look at that. All right, so really quick, if you're on YouTube, if you're on social media right now, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I see Grant joining us right now. Great to have Grant and Leda and Chuck and all of our students just on YouTube today. Again, if you're new to our social media streams, just subscribe right to @CyberTradingU on YouTube. Then otherwise, QR code on the top left right there will take you to our live trading room. But you know what? As much as we're looking for a ladder live here, we actually have Ryan Faloona from Benzinga Pro coming on in just about 15 minutes, and just a little bit from now. So we got some time. What I want to do is actually recap this move here in full. Obviously, it had popped, early in the morning, 7 o'clock. It took off prior to the market opening up. But then, where could we have had a better entry on this stock afterwards? A lot of us were focused on this trade from the pre-market leading into the open. We know what the stock did in hindsight, right? For anyone new joining Traders Talk, I just want you to realize really quick, because you might be new to the stock market, you might be a 20, 25 plus year pro. When we're reviewing a trade in hindsight, this is where I'll just come forward and I'll say, it's easy to tell you what already happened. You know what I mean? That's not what makes a good instructor or makes a good teacher out there. But what we focus on here every Tuesday, much like we do every month in our main curriculum, we focus on the same strategy. We focus on the same process. Listen, if you go to build a couch, it's pretty much the same step-by-step process that you would look to do every time, right? You buy furniture, you get it from IKEA, you might have to build it. Well, you have to read the instruction book. So if you're not going through that same step-by-step process, then you're not going to get far. So at least as we go through this trade in hindsight, it's easy to say, oh, it moved up, then it dropped, then it bounced. That's not the purpose of this, practice here of this example. But, each and every Tuesday, we go through the same motions, right? So we just kind of talked about a ladder. I answered that for Leda a bit there. But let me ask all of us, Leda, Grant, Chuck, Kathleen, I see here joining us right now. Where are we most likely to find the iceberg orders out there? Not even looking at this page here, just kind of thinking in the back of your head from class, what common set of price levels for a cheap stock like this are we more often to find the iceberg levels by the time the market opens up? What do we got? What do we got? What big level should we focus on normally for these cheaper stocks here? Looking at, 50-cent levels and whole numbers, right? See right there now, a couple of us answering 50-cent levels and whole numbers. So, hey, that would mean $5. That would mean $6. That would mean $7 if it pops more. That would mean the 50-cent prices in between, like $5.50 and $6.50 maybe. Right now, looking at this heat map, there's next to nothing at these prices, but these are still going to be assumed levels for us to work off of no matter what. So if you're looking at this chart in pre-market, and if you're anticipating on a move, Well, the first thing that you should be doing is right away plotting for big levels here, like $5. Explain a couple of other lines that you might see there, but $5, $6, $6.50. Just start there for right now. $5.50 I didn't draw a line for. I'll do that quick. All right, so now those are kind of like our North Stars, right? Like when we get lost in the woods, we have to look up, find our way home. North Star leads us home. That's our North Star in trading, 50-cent levels, whole numbers. All right, well, you see what I see. There's still this giant buy order, like a real buy order, an actual order that's out there, not like some assumed level. But that's at 440, so that should be a clear level of support by the time the market opens up. If it drops that low, which I could tell by the daily chart, it did not, I would draw a line there, but we'll just keep going for right now. All right, well, I'll tell you what, looking at the CVP column here on Bookmap, there isn't a whole lot that stands out, that truly, utterly sticks out more than the rest, like that much more. So none of this I really am using here too much, but by the time the market opens up, well, let me ask again. We got Barbara and Grant Irving here joining me now on YouTube. What are we doing by the time the market opens up? I teach this in phase 2 myself. Phase 1 is the more common answer that I'll get. But then really there's something else that I'll ask of students. But really by the time the market opens up, within the first couple of minutes, we tend to do 2 big things, right? What do we tend to do? Barbara answering just before, show her on YouTube really quick. She was answering just earlier, 50-cent levels, whole numbers. Ran just before. Got Irving joining me here today, normally inside our live trading room. Yeah, wait the first 5 minutes, right? We're waiting the first 5 minutes. That is one of the first things that we are doing, right? Waiting 5 minutes before we're taking any trade. So that's number one. That's the more common answer. Now, hey, by the time the market opens up, as much as we may want to look at the heat map part, what pops up by the time the market opens here? There we go. One of us on YouTube right now is saying, plot the opening bell print. Got your initials there. I can't tell who that is actually in our normally in our trading room, but they are correct. And Irving as well, might I say. Irving, I want to give him credit here too, because it's absolutely a necessity. Determine the trend. Now that I want to say is something that we should be doing before the market opens, right? So, hey, this stock was up percentage-wise. Not only that, but this stock is trending up the 30 minutes, the 45 minutes before the market opens. So, that right there, we need to identify before 9:30, right? So that's already good. That's perfect. But, hey, we wait 5 minutes, and we want to plot the opening bell print. So the opening bell print today on this stock was a 137,000 share transaction. Got filled at $6.18. So right away, that becomes a huge point of interest for me on this morning, and a lot larger of a point of interest compared to practically everything else. Because, where we're kind of talking size and what's a larger size. Well, don't get me wrong, unless if you have a bunch of more orders that pop up like this is truly large, 100,000+ shares at 440 here. I mean, that really is an anomaly for this stock. But still, what's a larger size? You tell me. What's a larger size, huh? 100,000 or 137,000, right? So, if we are respecting that iceberg there, then how much should we respect the opening bell print? Now, what happens in the first few minutes? Well, it drops off right away. It tanks, and still by 9:33, it tries to go back up, but it's a head fake. It's a false break within that 5-minute barrier, and then the stock comes back down, doesn't it? Well, really quick, I'll just kind of review this pretty quickly at this point. Look what happened by the time it came back up to this open price. Look what became resistance once again. This would be the easiest call out of my entire day right here. This would be it right here. If I was watching this, at the time it was moving up, this would be the easiest call out of my day. That might be easy to say in hindsight, perhaps for new members, but it's just a mention. The last time it tested this level was at 9:30 in the morning. It is currently 11 o'clock here. That's an hour and a half. That's a lot of time in this realm of trading that we live in. So the more times it could test that level in a smaller time frame, I'd be more bullish. Hey, coming up, the more times it tests this big level in a smaller concentration, smaller time frame, leaves me to believe that there's a better chance that this will break and run. So that's something to keep your eye on even here coming up. Now, ultimately, what happened on this stock looks like the VWAP ended up essentially holding a support. It was a little loose, right there. Actually, if I move the VWAP here for a moment, look what became better support. 50-cent level, right? Good old North Star, right? 50-cent level at 550. And actually, at first, this does, well, it's a pretty big break at first here. So a little volatile. It's pretty volatile of a break here at first. Just obviously, I'm just going to mention full transparency. I did not take this trade. So that's where it might be easy to look back on this after the fact, but I wasn't watching this at the time. It's not like I was watching it and I was too slow. I was watching AMD and I was watching, Coinbase and ARM. Those are my three options trades I was more, focused on today. But otherwise, QURE, it broke under, and then very quickly, thankfully, it did push back over, under and over, and it led to a clean breakout shortly afterwards, or a clean bounce, I should say, shortly from there. Coming up, though, this could be a clean breakout here coming up off the opening print. So again, we'll keep our eyes on this over time coming up. All right, really briefly, folks, want to make sure that we have enough time here, but at 11:30, I think that we'll have Benzinga Pro, Ryan Faloona coming on from Benzinga Pro here to wrap up Traders Talk. Have a great discussion, just going across a medley of different topics, going over just, Tesla and their recent run that they had, going over the Powell testimony perhaps as well. Then also with that as well, coming up the earnings season ahead. I know we have the banks reporting on Friday, then on Monday of next week. That kind of kicks things off altogether. All right, let's keep going through. Actually, really quick, I got to answer this one. So I'm catching it right now, Dominic. I got you here. I actually missed this question yesterday for him. I felt bad. I was like, oh, shit, I can't believe I told him I was going to get back to him and I didn't. So here we go. I got you, Dominic. So this was a trade yesterday on a stock, ZAPP, Z-A-P-P. And this was more from yesterday. Hey, this stock had a huge run going into the after hours, pre-market, moved higher even. We could talk about that briefly. But otherwise, though, Dominic had a question. This was even in relation to yesterday morning, not even the afternoon session. That breakout it had. That was a clean breakout trade. But this was where we were more trading it at first. So Dominic had a question. I took the trade in ZAPP, and I'm happy with it. He made money on it, meaning. But after the fact, it looks like, oh, and by the way, this was pre-market as well. This was pre-market trade. So this was like maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe like 8:30 bounce, whatever it may have been. He made money on this pre-market trade at least, right? He messaged me at 9:18 in the morning yesterday. He said, after the fact, it looks like I could have held longer. How do you handle a trade where you see potential even after 9:15? Would you stick with it shortly after the market opens? So I think what Dominic is asking, and let me know, Dominic, correct me here if I'm wrong. He's asking, how do you handle a trade where you see potentially going even by 9:15 in the morning? So at that point, that's kind of where you're thinking you want to get out of your positions by 9:10 in the morning, 9:15 in the morning. Certainly before the market opens up, you want to have enough time to give the stock a chance to breathe and relax, and you want to have enough time for yourself to take a step back and breathe and relax. So my rule is, if you're in a pre-market trade and it's going to be like 9:15 in the morning, I think what Dominic's asking is, are you going to risk potentially taking a loss or going break even by holding, or should you not do that? Should you look to just take the money and run? Because afterwards, I'll tell you what, Dominic, you messaged me at 9:18 in the morning. So was it from the initial run here, Dominic? Was it from the 7 a.m. move? Because if so, then, hey, for a stock that early in the morning, it's even worse because there's less people out there at 7 in the morning than there are at 8 in the morning, than there are at 9:30 in the morning. So, it's a little bit more difficult to trust the stock when there's less volume, right? So that's my first thought. I would also say that the first time it tests resistance after a clean run, it technically should hold. So meaning first I'd say clean run, $7 here, there could and should be some turbulence there, some resistance. Well, it ended up making an obvious breakout, completely broke out here. So resistance maybe could become support, but then it failed to get higher. So, either way, 8 became the level. First test off of 8, it made an ugly rejection, false breakout. So it came back down from that point. But if you're talking about like going into the market open here, take the money and run. Take the money and run every time, because unless the stock is like doing what it did at this point, unless it's like really accelerating in velocity, like parabolically going up, because that's easier for you to recognize, right? Let's just really quickly, I know it's apples and oranges here, and again, we got Ryan coming on in just about 5 minutes, folks, but NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA had a decent move today. It didn't start off too great though, right? We had the Powell testimony coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern, so a lot of traders were probably hesitating, waiting, so makes sense. But this is where I'll say at least it's just kind of consolidating here, right? Kind of consolidating. Unless if it's really beginning to go parabolic, you could tell, like even when NVIDIA broke out here at this point, okay, a few green bars looking okay. But this is so early in the morning that we've seen NVIDIA trade faster, trade quicker, trade better, whatever you want to call it. This still reversed right around that same reversal period. But it's a kind of underwhelming move just based off of my experience tailing NVIDIA throughout the mornings recently. So that's where I'll say for a stock that you're less familiar with even, especially going into the market open, unless if it's doing that parabolic type of run like it did earlier in that morning session right here. Like I think that's easier to tell in my opinion, like just the severity of this pop, this bar, compared to later on by like 9, 10, 9, 15. You want to compare it to that. They're like, okay, it's moving up, that's good. But unless it really starts stepping like the way it did here, the more it consolidates, the more that you're losing that chance to see it try and go higher. And obviously, look what happened here at this point. So, hindsight, yeah, I guess it went back up, I guess, and then later on even more. But I'm saying this to everyone else, not to Dominic, because honestly, the first coaching session I had with Dominic, I knew that he was picking up everything I was talking about in class. You never want to hold on to this stuff. You don't want to be like, oh, I could have held on for my pre-market trade, looking at the aftermath here. No, you don't, because when you're trading 1,000 shares, are you really gonna, kick your feet back as this stock is going down and getting halted going down, and then it's like churning up and down here? It's like making my stomach turn. It's like through the spin cycle, through the laundry machine, basically. This became a great trade going into the afternoon session. So let me just go over that for like 1 minute, and then we should have Ryan on from Benzinga Pro just shortly afterwards. So give me a quick second here. I want to just look at ZAP for a moment. Yesterday, this was such a good setup. And this was perfectly timed. Just going into the afternoon, it was right going into 2:30. Couldn't have been better timed. And I'll tell you what, actually, got a little ladder effect. Little ladder. I think it's a different buy order here. They're two different orders, but this one pulls. Places up higher. So a little ladder that kicked in, 117,000 share order on the bid that kicked in there that led to the breakout. But look what happened here. We had your opening bell print from this morning, or from yesterday morning. This was at $7. It's at the whole number anyway. It's like at that level to begin with. That's an assumed level to start. So then you have the 72,000 share opening print that got filled, and hey, over time it was shaking around like no other. But the more times it can contain itself and try and nip and break and try and make that better move, the more times in a smaller concentration, and then from there it led to a clean pop. Now, really quick, folks, I believe, if not coming up very soon, I think that we'll have Ryan from Benzinga Pro coming on here. So I'll just wait for him to get in the, stream here coming up. Just keep my eye out there. But with that, at least, let's jump back to QURE and take a quick look there, because what happened? Is that still kind of testing that opening bell print? Let's see. It's still nipping at it. Now, this would be where I would love to have this order on the bid kick in. Give me a quick second here. Yeah, this order on the bid at 440, it would be pretty ideal timing if we start to see this order actually ladder, like get pulled and then placed higher here, which can lead to the next breakout. So I appreciate that, Grant. Thank you very much. Really quick, if you're new to our social media streams, one of our longtime students, Grant, appreciate my friend as always. He says, sign up for the trial. You will be happy that you did. Thank you very much, Grant. You got to learn before you can earn, right? Trademark to Grant there on that line. But give me a quick sec. Okay, yeah, we'll get Ryan on from Benzinga in just a couple minutes, folks. Just run behind just a brief bit, but we'll get him on in just a few minutes here. So, hey, no better stock to watch live right now than really this, because it's up big already on the day. This should be resistance at first, as it was. But the more times they can nip that level in a smaller concentration, it leaves me to ask, what if? So this is definitely a more critical moment coming up here on this trade. And I think here we have Ryan from Benzinga Pro. Give me a quick second here, Ryan. I'm on the stick all morning myself, and I know that you were coming off an event too. So actually, let's get Ryan from Benzinga Pro coming on here on Traders Talk right now. There we go, Ryan. We got you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you so much for coming on our airwaves here. Actually, I listened to you a number of months back. You were incredible just demonstrating the Benzinga platform, and I would love to do that with you once again here.
Sure.
There's so much to talk about, honestly, with Tesla's recent run that they had. Obviously, we're coming off the Powell testimony, so I had my eyes all over the Benzinga Pro platform at 10 o'clock as that was going down. So what did you think of all of that to begin?
Okay, well, so first of all, I mean, the Powell thing, I'll start there, right? The whole Powell thing here, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see anything new here today. Didn't really hear anything new from him. So to me, this is just kind of a non-issue, at least so far. We'll see if that changes here, but so far, just kind of ignoring it, frankly. I will show you a tip here in Benzinga Pro where you can kind of keep track of all of this stuff. It makes it very easy for me to follow along with what he's saying. At the same time, even if I'm, not able to watch it, like I've got it on another screen here, but I can't hear it. They're not putting everything at the bottom. Benzinga Pro is still going to give me all those headlines, and I'd be happy to show that here for you. I did have one. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, absolutely. I was just going to say definitely, because I want to see if there's any tools in which that I'm not using that could help us at least follow things like that. Maybe the CPI report coming out on Thursday, I think it is coming up. And, a couple of other things. So
yeah, actually, I'm glad that you brought the CPI report up, because the trick that I'm going to show you here will encompass not only what we're talking about here today, but also the CPI report, also future things like future CPI reports, PPI reports, Fed and White House commentary. So be happy to show you that. I did go ahead and share my screen here if you want to show. Okay, so let's talk about, and then I want to talk, are you guys trading SNGX here today?
Absolutely, we are. Okay. So I didn't cover that move just a moment ago. I was on another trade, QURE, but this one as well, like both of those together.
Perfect. So we can also talk about that in a little bit here, but let's stick with the tips and tricks here for Benzinga Pro. So as mentioned, I know it was a little bit late here. I was late here because I actually had two shows that I'm coming directly from. Now I bring that up because Benzinga Pro and its features here allow me to still host and do those shows and very, very quickly process information. As long as I'm not mid-sentence, I'm going to have all of that information fed to me so that I can very, very quickly go through it. Josh, let's take a look at that here real quick. So first of all, when it comes to Pro, one of the benefits of it is that you can create these different workspaces. Now, the workspace that you're looking at here is very, very simple. It's a relative volume scanner. It's unusual option activity flow. It's a chart that I can change all the different time frames on. It's a halt and resume tool, and there's also a new high and new low tool here. All of these are designed to help me make or identify day trades no matter what's going on in the market. Okay, so I have this as one of my workspaces, but let me show you a different workspace. And this is the one that I kind of wanted to share some tips with you. So I'm sure some of you or some of your group have used news feeds before. So I don't want to bore you with all of the different news feed stuff. I just want to go straight to the tips. If anyone has any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can email me or anything like that. I'd be happy to give out my credentials. But let's talk about how we set this up. So what I've done here is I just clicked on another workspace, and I actually have three news feeds that I use every single day. And some of the stuff that's going on today comes directly from these. So first of all, what I've done over here on the right is I've actually filtered this news feed for SPY. Here's what that means, right? You literally just type in the ticker SPY. In fact, here, I'll reset it. We'll put this back to a generic news feed, and I'll just go ahead and type SPY, select that symbol off the keyword, bang. Now, what this does is this filters for only like the big market moving news. So the comments that fed out of Fed's testimony here today, that's definitely going to be tagged under SPY. CPI numbers, PPI numbers, housing starts, housing permits, Michigan consumer sentiment, all of those data prints that are going to affect the broader market, also going to be tagged under SPY. Comments that come out from the Fed, like if Powell just says something, or if the comments out of the White House, all of those are going to be tagged under SPY. So effectively what I've done here is I've created one newsfeed that with just applying the SPY filter, now I have all of the important news correlated in chronological order. It doesn't take me forever to scroll through the newsfeed and find it. That's why if I'm looking at a different screen or a different window, I can very quickly come back here, spend less time finding what I need, and then more time thinking about or acting on what I need. Okay, so right there, the pro tip number one for the newsfeed, if you filter by SPY, you're going to get a lot of that bigger news that's also going to contain those data prints. How's that for a starter?
Oh, that's incredible, right? So not only that, so I know that you could do this for like tickers like the SPY, you could do Coinbase, you could do Tesla, obviously with Elon, like every like hour on the hour, there's something new coming out with him. You could also do this for like keywords, right? You could do it for sectors as well, right? And like any news within the sector, it could pop up as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely you can. So here, I think one of the things that we can do is just kind of a demonstration to make this a little bit easier. Also, because I don't want to jack up the stuff that I have saved here. What I've done is I've just created a new newsfeed. So that's all we're looking at. Okay. And by the way, I should mention this to your users here. When you create a new newsfeed, its default configuration is going to have the Benzinga wire, which is our aggregated news source, as well as the press releases turned on. So the press release, that's how companies disseminate news mostly. That's all included here in Pro and on by default. Now, here's what you got. The search bar at the top, if you don't ever use it, you're missing out. Just straight up, if you don't ever use the search bar, you're missing out because there is so much power in this search bar. Simply by clicking on it, I'm being shown a couple of things here. I'm being shown a couple of trending keywords going on right now. I didn't have to search or look for anything, but here are some trending keywords, which of course you can add and subtract to. Here are some symbols. Now, in this case, these are symbols that I've been looking up over the past several hours here over some of the programs. There's also links. So if you've recently set up different link groups, or if you set up something else in your platform, it should appear here as well. And then there's also recent keywords. So it's giving me a hodgepodge here. It's giving me some of my recent tickers and keywords. It's also giving me trending keywords, but we can add anything we want in here. So for example, if you're taking a look at trending keyword France and you just click on it, you can have all of the different news that's coming out here about France. Now, if we want to get rid of some of these press releases that might not really be telling us anything, very, very easy. All we got to do is close that off. Right. So you can, or uncheck it, excuse me. So you can come up with a ton of different keywords on this. I like to leave press releases on. Do you have any favorite keywords you want me to kind of play around with here?
I'll tell you what, I was going to ask you just at some point, are you in, like you yourself, are you into crypto? Are you into Bitcoin at all? What are your thoughts on that just collectively?
Yes, I am. So I'm glad that you asked here, but I apologize in advance if you file this under the boring answer category. I am absolutely into crypto. I believe in crypto. I believe in the blockchain technology. I think 10 years down the road, this is going to have applications that we're not even aware of yet. However, I don't actively trade it. I'm a hodler. I'm a hodler. And I know that sometimes I come across different groups. That's the quote unquote boring answer. But the reality is that I bought my first Bitcoin when the price of Bitcoin was like $6,100. And I watched it go up to 19 and I didn't sell. And I watched it come all the way back down. And I had a bunch of my friends that are like, you should have sold. The move's over. Bitcoin's over. That fad's over. And I went back to each one of those people when Bitcoin printed 60K and saying, I thought you said it was over. What happened there? My whole thing here is on Bitcoin is this is a transformative technology that's going to have a long runway. I can't foresee every different way in which it's going to branch off. So the way that I'm going to stay exposed to it is simply owning some of the coins. So it's very, very simple. I own Bitcoin, I own Ethereum, and I own some Litecoin. So we'll see if that ends up working out. I don't trade it actively. I save that for stocks.
Okay. That is a great answer, and that's not a boring answer. Come on now, you're sticking in all of your haters' faces there that are telling you, "Oh, you should have sold. You should have sold." I think it's still going to keep going up over time. So, at least with the Benzinga Pro platform, how would you be able to at least better track crypto news, Bitcoin, we'll say specifically? And also, by the way, my colleague Rich is probably a big fan that you just mentioned Litecoin. So.
Oh, okay. So I'll be honest. To me, it seems like Litecoin, of the three that I picked, I'm not much on like the meme coins, or I don't know if, what kind of language I can use here. So I'm not going to use some of the parlance that's used with that. I'm not used with some of the fly-by-night coins here. I kind of stick with best in breed. And again, when I started here, we were talking about a price that was hovering around 6,000 for Bitcoin. So when I was first looking into it, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, these seem to be the well-developed coins, the chains that I could trust, the ones that I felt, frankly, I felt okay holding those for the long run. When things started coming out like Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, and there's dogs and all these memes floating all over the place, I didn't really understand it, so I just kind of stayed away from it. I watched it, but I didn't really understand it. There are several things that you can do here in Pro. First of all, we have a Bitcoin quote feed in Pro. So if you need to just get the price of Bitcoin, that's of course available to you. Now, I know some of you have Coinbase accounts and brokers, the whole nine yards. You might not be able to do that, or you might not need to do that, excuse me. But the reality is that because we actually have that as a ticker, that means that ticker can then be used as a filter in the newsfeed. And by the way, in other tools that you want to filter here. So if I ever need to see, okay, what's going on with Bitcoin? I spent the last weekend in the woods. I have no idea what's going on with technology in the world. It's as simple as me just adding the ticker to the newsfeed here. And now I have a jumping off point. Now, there's a couple of things here, right? So there's going to be some newsprints in here, but you'll notice, and this is something that you're going to see across Pro. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more and make this easier for your viewers here. This is something that you're going to see across Pro. It's not specific to Bitcoin, and I'm always amazed at how many people are unaware that this is the case. When you come across a news post here, like let's use this one, for example here, U.S. stocks set for positive start as Jerome Powell heads to Capitol Hill. This says it's tagged to QQQ, but it also has this +8 next to it. And what that means is that this piece of news, or the content within this news, is going to apply to more than just one name. And as a result, it's telling you what those names are. So this news post here is basically previewing Jerome Powell's testimony here today. And Pro is telling you, hey, these things are liable to move based on the content of that meeting. It's QQQ right here at the top, but it's also SPY, Bitcoin, AMD, BP. You can see all of the other tickers that are listed here. So a lot of the times when I'm kind of going through news, where I'll start with on the news post, if I see a news post here that kind of stands out to me, the next thing that I might do is say, okay, well, what else does that apply to? So for example, right here, what dip? Bitcoin ETF, shakes off dumb money label with $300 million in inflows. Okay, so right here, I can kind of see all of the different tickers that this applies to. It's not just Bitcoin. This is also applying to Ethereum and the GBTC tradable ETF in the market as well. So I think that's OTC. So in any case, you can get all of that stuff here within Pro just simply by putting the ticker in here. Now, if there's something going on, like for example, let's see how this works. If we've got some guy named Roaring Kitty creating a whole bunch of havoc out there, or anybody, doesn't have to be him, you can also use that as a keyword. And you can, if something's going on, you can actually just kind of take that keyword and get a really quick idea as to what's going on with that. One thing I want to mention here before I toss it back to you, the way that this keyword works on default is that it's going to search the headline and it's going to search the body of whatever that news post is. But you have control over this as well. So if you're saying, well, I just want to have news posts where Roaring Kitty is mentioned in the headline, because I know that those are kind of attention grabbing headlines, all you got to do when you put the keyword in there is simply click on it. now you can actually change the search toggle. So by default, it's going to be in both. But if I click on it one time, look what happens. Now it's only searching the title. My results list completely changes. And as a result, I'm able to find more things or different things in a different way. So you can also, by the way, as if we do it one more time, it searches only the body. So you have total control over these searches as well.
Tell you what, I never knew that part at the very end right there that you just showed. So
the more you bring me on, the more you and your viewers are going to learn about Pro. I can make you that promise right now.
what's that graphic back in the day? We'll say like a long time ago. It's that star that went by and said, "The more you know."
The more you know. I actually have that saved on my computer here because I use that so often. So yeah,
yep, that's
Rainbow,
it,
right?
Yep, that's it. So you know what? That's it's pretty much exactly like for maybe the very first time that you joined us here on C2 Airwaves here, because when you first started presenting the platform, I'm like, wait a second, I didn't know about this. Wait a second, I didn't know about that. Like, and it was excellent. I want to steer it just towards there's two parts of this platform I do want to show our traders, because we're heading into the earnings season coming up. We got banks reporting on Friday, then Monday, then it all trickles down, of course. But I also want to combine that with like the unusual options activity. So like I guess kind of just going into the calendar all together then to demonstrate both. Let me ask our just members on YouTube today, because we got our members from our trading group joining us on YouTube at Cyber Trading U. Make sure to follow, subscribe right there. But we got Grant, Lita, Barbara, we got Bob, we got Tim joining us here right now. So who here trades options? Who here trades options right here in this workshop on Traders Talk here right now? Fausto and I always say it's the underlying movement of the stock that that affects the premium essentially. So you got to be a good stock trader first before you start dipping into like the crazy volatile options. But for anyone here that's familiar with options, Benzinga has not only an earnings calendar that can better prepare you in advance, but they have an unusual options activity type of scanner calendar, so to say, and it gives you really good insight seeing what the big buyers and sellers are doing out there.
All right, well, why don't I kind of walk you through that? I'll walk you through some of the different features here of the calendar and what your users can do, and then I'll show you how I've incorporated it into my everyday routine. How about that? That'll at least give you some ideas. So first of all, just kind of rewinding and going back to the initial premise here of Pro, one of the values of this is that any of these new things that you create, I call them tasks, but basically I'm trying to create a workspace that helps me solve a task, whether that's just getting information or whatever. The calendar, as you were mentioning, is extremely in-depth. This is not your grandmother's calendar that just tells you it's a Tuesday, right? This is something that's going to have loads more information for you to kind of help you out here. So what I do is I actually keep one of my workspaces dedicated to just the calendar tool. I used all of my creative juices and named it calendar. And then I put just the calendar tool in it, and I don't clutter it up with anything else. And let me show you how I can use these things. Remember, you can have multiple instances of one tool. You'll see that a lot with the details, and you'll see that a lot here with the calendar. So by default, this actually opened up to analyst ratings, which is really, really helpful if you follow analyst ratings at all. I know that you mentioned earnings as well, dividends, splits, secondary offerings, guidance, FDA, there's tons of stuff in here. It will tell you what's going on. But let's go to that unusual option activity that you kind of set me up here for. All right. I do use this every single day. And I'd like to know, for me, unusual option activity is one of those things where it's that additional data point, right? If you give me that additional data point, I should be able to make a better trade here. So here's what I've got. Let me actually remove the sorting here, and then we'll go to the top. Let's go all the way to the top. One new event. Okay, perfect. So what you're seeing right here is just the unusual option flow. I've got no filters here. It's basically just giving me anything that the algorithm determines is unusual. Now, what does the algorithm determine is unusual? It's not just size. It's not just total money spent. It's also how aggressive that order is. Are traders going out and slapping the ask in order to get their unusual option filled? Are they waiting on the bid and having big orders being dumped onto a highly bid strike and expiry? So some of it comes down to the aggressiveness. That's proprietary. But size and volume also play a role in that. Okay, so that's how these are selected. Now, one of the things that you can do is on your end, you can then do more filtering. So if you say, okay, well, that's great, Ryan, that you have this aggressiveness kind of built into the unusual option activity signal, but I have a tried and true plan, and the tried and true plan for me means the size of the transaction is the most important thing. No problem. Okay, no problem. So right here, you're seeing all of the flow come in. But the cool part about using the calendar for this is that you have more control over this than you realize. I know we've got a filters button here. It's right along the right-hand margin, and it confuses people because it's vertical. It's not horizontal like most everything else in here. If we click on this, we can actually apply filters to any of the variables that you see in here. So a couple of things that I want to cover real quick. One of the things is you'll notice that one of the filters in here is volume. This is volume traded at that strike and expiry at the time of the transaction. This does not measure how big the transaction is. I get this question all of the time, so I wanted to start with this right at the outset. Volume refers to the actual daily volume of that strike and expiry. Now, if you want to filter for only, quote, big orders, end quote, you can do that, but the filter that you need is size. It's just simply named a little bit differently, okay? So that's why that's in here. So if I come in here and I put size greater than 999, that means that I'm only going to see unusual options transactions that had at least 1,000 contracts in the individual order. So if this is more criteria about how you determine what is actually unusual and what constitutes good information for a new trade, you can do that filter here. Okay, so size, that's just number of contracts. One of the other questions I get all of the time, how much money was spent on the transaction, right? If I buy 1,000 contracts and the contracts cost 2 cents, that's not the same as me buying 1,000 contracts of a contract that's $2.50.
Was just piece, about, right? I was going to segue you perfect. So you already know they're out here. It's perfect. Yep. I actually use the trade values filter here a lot when I look at the UOA.
Yep, and that's exactly right here. And the reason that I was able to do that is because, like I said, I've learned from experience. I've got asked these questions a bunch. We get that all of the time. So as Josh just said here, it's trade value, right? So if I want to go ahead and say, hey, I only want to see transactions that are at least $250,000. If a trader is spending $250,000 on a single options position, probably good for my $1,000 or $2,000 option position, right? And if they're willing to put this kind of money in here, perhaps there's other information that you can extract from this, like, hey, there was a lot of big bets coming in here. There's repeat bets. That's one of my favorite indicators. When I get an unusual buy, when I see repeat buys of the same thing later on in that session, that generally speaking is a good sign for what we're doing here. So you can filter this. You can actually combine these filters too, right? You're not limited to one at a time. So I just talked to you a little bit about size, and I went ahead and added in this trade value filter here. But if I wanted to come in here and layer these on top of each other, I can do that. So if you want to find the biggest, most expensive transactions, you can do that. And then the other thing here is we're talking about these filters from the filter menu here. That's great, right? These are how you filter the actual data. But don't forget, you can actually filter based on stock as well. So even with these filters active, I can come back into the search bar here, and I can just simply type. And in this case, I typed SPY. There was nothing there. If I type something like pin duo, I actually did see there were two rather huge unusual option orders here for pin duo. And so here you go. You can apply these filters any way that you want. And you can also use watch list filters. So if you have a group of stocks that you kind of want to just see if there's any like unusual activity, you can actually plug that in here, right? We can remove the ticker. We can click back on the search bar, click the watch list tab, and now I can add any watch list here. It's going to be in alphabetical order. It's only going to show you a couple. So you can see here, the lowest watch list on my list is Bounce. Well, the actual watch list I want to apply here is called Main. So what I'm going to do is just start typing it instead of scrolling for it. It filters it for me. Now it's going ahead and showing me all of these big transactions for any of the stocks that are on my watch list. this can make that kind of due diligence really, really easy. And if this is something that you do all of the time, you might want to consider leaving this workspace open so that you can refer to it. You don't have to set these settings every day. You can set them one time, and then the tool will do the work every day, which I think is really cool as well.
So a couple of things that I just want to share from my experience using this, and if we have time here, I also want to dip into the scanners as well, because
Absolutely.
as day traders, myself, Rich, my colleague here, like we love the scanning. The scanners help with the quicker moves up and down that we may see. But at least with the UOA, the two things I want to just mention here, I love using the expiration date filter because, hey, again, as a day trader, maybe you're more interested in looking at contracts that are set to expire sooner rather than later, right? Maybe you're trying to follow someone as a day trader looking to get that quick move. So if you filter out the expiration date where you're looking for early July now, just shoot from the hip here, let's say like late September, maybe just for reference, or late August, at least get contracts that are set to expire sooner rather than later. Perhaps those are day traders alongside yourself. And then what was the other one I was going to mention? It was the expiration date.
Well, real quickly, while you're thinking about the other one here, look how easy that was. I had no idea what you were going to mention, and I was basically just listening to your English and was able to apply that filter here. I went into the expiration date, less than 9/30/2024. That's September 30th. Now, all of the unusual action that's trading here today is going to have an expiration date before, I know it says less than here, sorry about that, but it's before that September 30th cutoff that we just put in there. That was no work for me to do, Josh. I mean, I was just doing that while you were mentioning it. What was the other filter you had?
So the other one was at the bottom. So like with the way our streaming is set up here, my webcam's actually blocking it, I think. But there's one that would say market sentiment, say like bullish or bearish. So similar to how you were saying, at least looking for, you could also go into sweeps too. But yeah, the sentiment. I love seeing this bullish, bearish. You could tell it's more aggressively hit on the ask or on the bid, things like that, right?
And that's the key there, because I get this question a lot too. I get this question. So how could calls be bearish? Right? I get that question all the time. Well, think about it. Let's say that there's someone sitting on a bid for whatever strike, stock XYZ, end strike, you make it up, right? Let's just say that there's people sitting on a bid, and the contract is trading above the bid, and then all of a sudden there's volume flow, and they're just hitting the bid, and they're bringing that down, and they're bringing that, and then all of a sudden it fills a giant order at the bid. How on earth is that bullish? If there are a bunch of people just absolutely dumping calls or just selling short these calls, you tell me how that's bullish. They're doing that at the bid. They're saying, get me out. I want to hit bids. I don't want to sit around and wait for my order to fill. I want to hit bids. I want out. To me, that is definitely bearish. And then if you flip that to the puts, right, it's the inverse of that. And this is kind of what gets people. So I think then, Josh, and I'm just speculating here, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that one of the reasons you like this sentiment is because it's a shortcut. It's calculated. You don't necessarily have to say, okay, well, this was calls, so that means calls at the ask is bearish. And no, it just kind of does it for you, right? It's all about that speed that we've been talking about. Am I on there?
It's binary. It's 0 or 1. It's bullish or bearish, right? And I guess neutral. I guess you toss neutral in there too. But it's to the point.
But here's the greatest part about that. Click it. Now neutral's not in there. Now we just have that binary scenario you just spoke about. Took one click to do it.
Yep. So the UOA, this is very, if intuitive is the right word, it makes me sound fancy, but no, it's a very dynamic platform that gives you a bunch of ways to customize it. And, honestly, the same to be said as we said for the scanner, at least for the scanners that you have. As day traders, one tool that I love using is the scanner, because it gives you the ability to find stocks that might be like popping or making a move as we're talking right now. There could be a trade making like a nice little push, like ZVSA perhaps. Just you get that right from the scanner program. It's pretty simple for us to kind of go about that.
Yeah. And so here we go. So let's kind of go back to my main workspace here. This is where I started off, because I think that this is a really good segue into the scanner. And don't worry, I will create a scanner in a new workspace so that it's very, very easy for us to see. This is easy to see in person, but I understand when we're broadcasting, it might be a little bit difficult. But this is a really good segue because I can show you now how I've incorporated the unusual option activity flow that we just talked about into the main workspace that revolves around the scanner. So let me just set the stage here real quick. In the upper left here, this is the scanner, and the filters that this is using, it's very, very simple. This is a relative volume scanner. I'm looking at intraday relative volume. I'm looking for stuff that's 300% or more. And then we can talk about some of the other filters here in a sec, but that's the crux of what I'm doing here. Now, I've also added in an unusual option activity calendar in here. And the only filter that I have on here, I believe, oh, no, it looks like I took that off too. There was a, no, security. It's still on security type. So, for example, our feed will detect unusual options on QQQ, SPY, IWM, any of those ETFs. But what I'm trying to do here is identify individual names. So I know that I can just kind of remove ETF from this list. I don't need this for this application. I didn't in the last one that we were just demonstrating together, but in this one, I leave it off because I want to see flow for individual names. Now, normally I'll just kind of leave it like this and I'll see if there's flow in here, right? Like I can see this populating in real time. And by the way, our unusual option activity feed is real time. Some of the other ones out there, I'm not going to name any names, but some of the other ones out there are a little bit delayed. Ours is real time. I can kind of just see flow here. I've got size, I got the expiration, I got the strike. So if I see something here that kind of jumps off to me, then I maybe do a little bit more investigation. Now, furthermore, if I see stocks in my list of stocks that are trading on relative volume, and at the same time, I'm seeing that in the option chain. Here's a good example from today. Here's ticker GLW. This is Corning. They make Gorilla Glass for your smartphones. This stock reported earnings yesterday, and it's just an absolute powerhouse. Something changed after that earnings report yesterday, getting a little bit of continuation here today. I actually, while we were doing the live trading show earlier today, I noticed that GLW was appearing on the relative volume scanner as it was doing this push up, right? Like if I zoom in here, as we were pushing up out of the open, we pushed up into this bull flag. We took another leg higher here. When this was happening, GLW was appearing on my relative volume scanner. Well, great. If we're also getting calls here, look at this. This looks like a 2,900 contract call transaction here. It looks like the expiry is July 16th. This was the 39 call. Premium on this, $1.7 million. That makes me wonder if that was a huge closing trade, right? Or is it maybe someone saying, we've run a little too far, a little too fast here. We're kind of at like this double top area. Maybe we're going to play this for a regression back to the mean. Like I'm able to kind of look at that just by looking at this transaction and then figuring that and trying to figure out what that trader is doing and how I can apply that to my trade. Another real quick tip here that I want to share with you guys. Sometimes I'll come in here, especially on days where it's a little bit slower. I'll come in here and I'll go back to that size, but instead of making it something like 1,000, I'll put greater than 99 in here. And basically what this is showing me are only transactions that have at least 100 contracts in it. That kind of takes away some of maybe the aggressive retailers or maybe kind of the smaller retailers. This to me seems to give me a more true indication of option flow. And again, I'm looking for patterns here, right? So I'm seeing Tesla calls and puts kind of being bought here, offsetting. This is interesting. I'm seeing Wells Fargo calls getting bought here, 500. We got earnings on Friday, so it looks like Wells Fargo calls getting bought here ahead of earnings. Oh, look at this, seeing more Wells Fargo. This is the type of thing that I'm meaning. I'm looking for patterns here, right? So if I see repeat buying, now we got Tesla 250 puts, repeat buying, different size lots here. That generally gives me an idea of what the option flow is telling me, and hopefully that can help me determine how I'm going to trade or what I'm going to trade with a little bit more accuracy.
Excellent. And that's incredible how you're able to stack one, like literally one on top of the other, but to like use it as a combination and give you the chance to, look at certain stocks moving off relative volume and then looking at the order flow afterwards or the options order flow there and kind of going from that standpoint.
Yep, indeed. Now let's talk a little bit about the scanner here because I'm thrilled that you brought this one up. This tool to me is, now that we have one here in Pro, this is a core part of what I'm trying to do in Benzinga Pro. So I'm at the new workspace screen. You can get there by clicking the little plus button. And here you can either start with one of our presets or you can start from our actual tool. So I'm going to do this real simple. I'm going to just start with the scanner here. And a couple of things. So I'm curious to know what you folks scan for. I want to that's the conversation I'd like to have here. I do want to show you a couple of things before we do that. Number one, when you create scans, you can save them. That's what these little disk buttons are for at the top. So if you save some, you might have a couple of different scans. My favorite is going to be my main scan here, but I also have a scan to scan for high short interest. And I also have a scan that scans for dividend capture. I'm looking for high dividend yield, and I can actually filter based on the dividend X date so I can plan ahead if I'm going to do any type of dividend capture. We'll get to there a little bit later. But the other really cool thing here, and this is another pro tip here, not a lot of people think about this. The scanner does do scanning, but it can also be used as a custom data table. What do I mean by that? Custom data table. Okay, so you can see here that the scanner is displaying us price, change percent, market cap, and volume. All things that you'd probably want to know. But let's say that there's some more information that you want to know. Let's say that short interest or short percent of float is something that might factor into your trading plan. I totally get it. Well, I can search for that. I basically just clicked on the All tab here, and then I used the search bar in the upper right to search for any filters that have short in them. And here I see short percent of float. Now I can add a filter by utilizing the dropdown, but I also have this little button right here. This is a plus button inside of a circle. And if I click that, it now adds that data to the results list. Okay, and by the way, when you're in the results list, you can organize this any way that you want by clicking and dragging the column headers and rearranging it any way you see fit. I've, of course, now taken it off, so let me go ahead and re-add it. But you can do this with anything. So short interest is one of them. Here's another one. We get people all the time that say, hey, I want to scan for stuff, but I want to know if there's a piece of news that's driving it. Here's another pro tip. Why don't you go ahead and add, why don't you go ahead and add where is it? Did I misspell it there? There's a WIM column in here. Let me see where that is. Had it on the other one. Let's see.
Why you just showed me 5 different things that I didn't know how to do. Just save the scanner, the add button there, the little circle. Yeah, there's something going on with one of my filters here, so I apologize about that. But I was basically just gonna show you how to add another filter here. Here's another one that we get asked about all of the time. How much is the stock up this month, right? Like, so we've got a month to date change percent in here. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to the data table as well. Now, you can add whatever you want to these tables, and of course, you can sort on them, right? So when you add some of these different variables, it's by default going to be sorted in descending order on change percent from the previous close, as most things are. But if you want to sort, let's say, hey, what's the highest short thing? Okay, well, here we go. We can actually sort on short percent of float, do the same thing here for month-to-date change. The other cool thing is that anytime you see a ticker here, if you click on it, it will open a details tool. Now, a couple of things that I want to cover here first. The details tool will always remember what you're on. So I clicked on it here and it's showing me overview and I'm getting the chart right away here. A lot of people think, well, how can I add moving averages? And there's nothing to add here. Well, there's a chart tab of details that gives you the trading view chart. And in here is where you can add all of your different things, all of your different indicators. But on this overview tab, there's a bunch of information like a filtered news feed. So if you're ever saying, okay, well, why is SNGX up 413%? All you have to do is click on it and check it out. In the case of SNGX, our news desk has discovered why the stock is moving. Sologenics shares are trading higher after the company announced interim results for extended high-bright treatment in early-stage CTCL patients. So here's your reason why this stock is up. Now, should the stock be up 400%? I'll let you folks argue that. But this is the reason why the stock is moving. And I didn't really have to do much other than clicking on the ticker.
If you already have this open and you click on the ticker, it will simply change the focus. So there, you can set this up to kind of be the driving tool, if you will, in any workspace that you create.
Excellent. So it provides simplicity, and again, there's so many different ways to customize the entire platform, not just the scanners, and not just the UOA or the earnings calendar, like just even the regular details page there. There's so many tools in which you could utilize. I say this more to our actual students that are joining us here for Traders Talk today. I see Leda again. I saw Luisa, so Grant, Barbara, Kathleen, Tom, and many more here just joining us. You don't need to use all the tools. You're actually going to become overwhelmed by trying to focus in on every part of it. That's why I love this platform, because you want to take the time to study it and just learn more, and you'll find your own tools. You'll find your own groove as a day trader that caters to you. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I thought I might be the only person saying that for the longest time. This actually goes back to an old adage that and because I'm saying that because I'm old, by the way, that I developed when I was in college. When you highlight everything, you highlight nothing. So the thing about Benzinga Pro is that, like, we got all these different tools in here, and yeah, you can use them, but really, what are you trying to do? And even in the situation here, where I'm in my own situation, where I've kind of shown you some of my different workspaces, I'm not trying to do everything at once. Like, I have these things broken down into different tasks because I can't do everything at once. Just like you can't highlight everything and retain all of that information, the important thing is to just highlight the things that are important to you, right? So you don't have to use everything in Benzinga Pro. You can pick and choose, say, okay, I need this to help me with this, and I need Squawk because I need to be able to listen to news while things are going on and I might not be looking at the screen, but I'm okay there. That's fine. As long as that's helping you make more money in your trading, we've done our job. It's not a contest to see who can do as many things, who has as many workspaces, who's got the most complex. No, none of that matters. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is P&L. If you have something where this platform can help you, if the platform is helping you have a higher P&L, we've done our job at the end of the day.
I'll tell you what, really quick. Also, I love that your platform is real time, though. I know you mentioned a couple other names, not mentioning other names, but it's true. Hey, you're real time. I want to add that in there. That's what makes you guys so good. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's true. And like we have other versions here that aren't real time. For me, that's never been something that I'm looking for, right? I'm always looking for something that's real time. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of taking a look at some of the stuff that we were looking at earlier here.
The GLW, I didn't even realize. So when you brought that to my attention, the Gorilla Glass, I'm like, well, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I'll probably look more into the UOA there.
And check this out too, real quickly. I can actually go to the calendar here. Okay, here's the earnings calendar. I just spoke about how something changed in this earnings print. Look how easy this is to kind of just do some high level earnings analysis here. Okay, so the earnings that they reported here, that's July 30th, excuse me. The earnings that they reported back in April, okay, this was a Q1 beat 8.57%, surprise revenue 4.42%. Okay, well, and again, this normally it's not like this. It's because I'm so zoomed in. Normally it looks like this. I really don't have to scroll back and forth. But basically, what this is doing, I'm looking back at other Q1s and I'm comparing it just at a glance. Okay, the Q1 from last year, they beat by 5%. It wasn't an 8.5% beat. What did they do on the revenue? They beat by not even 1%. Let's look at the year before. They beat by 8%. Okay, pretty good. 4.87, they did pretty good on the revenue. So this one's kind of comparable, although still a little bit less. And then I look back here, this Q1, they beat by about 4.6%. Okay, so this 8% beat recently, going back to what, 2021, this is actually a pretty significant beat. And it took me less than 10 seconds to really kind of figure that out, simply by looking at the historical earnings numbers here. If you want to focus on revenue versus focus on EPS, you can do that. Again, all of that stuff is just kind of here for you. And to me, this tells me that something's a little bit different here. And if I take a look at the chart and I go to a daily chart, I can kind of figure out, hey, when did these things change? And I'm sorry here, I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. I'm not sure what the heck happened there. So here, if I go to a daily chart, here we go. You can really kind of see, like, things have really been good for Corning this year. This stock has pretty much been straight up since the beginning of January. We had this little dip here, and then the earnings kind of changed it. And look, now we're actually going for this 46 and a half, maybe 46.75. I think this will be a potential reversal area, or maybe we bust through it. You tell me.
Hey, time will find out, right? I mean, it's moving up so fast already.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. You said come July 30th, that's their next earnings as the calendar shows. So,
Yep.
We're heading into earnings season here. We got the banks reporting on Friday, then Monday. So Benzinga Pro is incredible because it gives you the chance to prepare for all of this too. You could just look it up right now and it saves you the hassle, saves you the hair pulling. You know what's coming out when. And, it gives myself and our traders ultimately that have Benzinga Pro a great ability to be more on the ball than anything else.
So here we go. I just went to the calendar. I selected earnings from the dropdown. I've got nothing here listed today. If I click on the date here and I click this week, here we go. Here are your earnings at the end of the week. I didn't even have to actually specify the date. I actually used shortcuts that were built in, which you can also use. This is when they report. It's going to tell you if it's before or after. It's going to tell you what those estimates are. If you want to do this in advance, oops, clicked on the wrong thing there. If you want to do this in advance, if you want to plan for next week, all you got to do is select the, oops, I clicked the wrong, sorry, clicked the wrong button there. Let's click that as the range, 15 to 19. Here you go. Look how earnings season is really going to start to pick up that following week. And you also might look at this and be like, well, some of these stocks I don't really care about. They're kind of small. Let's look for the big stocks. Okay, let's do that. Let's just click on filters here real quick. Let's scroll down to market cap. Let's put greater than 10 billion. Okay, here are the stocks that you're going to recognize. We're able to very, very quickly kind of clear out some of those smaller stocks, and it's going to leave us with things like American Express, Goldman Sachs, and Fifth Third Bank.
That's an even better way compared to how I do it, actually. I mean, both are pretty good, I'm sure, but this is even better. I look at the, right there, the importance tab. I look at that, but this is even better because you're looking at market cap and, you don't necessarily know how it, I don't know.
Yeah,
how it's categorized by importance.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. All the market cap does is it gives you a little bit more granular control, right? You can control what earnings you want to see based on market cap, and generally speaking, that's pretty good. But let's talk about that importance that you brought up. How is importance figured out? Well, we have a team of people here at Benzinga that work on the news desk. We actually call them, affectionately, we call them news deskers because, again, we've got all types of creative labels to come up with for people. What these people do is they literally focus on news every day. They are reading news. They are searching for news. They are sifting through news. So who do you think are the news experts? That's right. It's the people that are dealing with news every single day, and they're the ones that are determining this, right? So this is, I guess you could call this a Benzinga proprietary measure if you wanted. But basically what's going on here is we have experienced people that just look at news that are saying, hey, when Apple reports, it means more than when some $200 million microcap reports, right? Like that's kind of how they figure this out. So then on the user's end, Josh, when you come in, all you're saying is basically, hey, just show me like the real important ones, right? And think about what I'm asking you there. You're saying the real important ones. That's kind of general. That's kind of vague. That's not specific. Like show me all of the companies that have at least a $10 billion market cap. But even so, you're still able to get a pretty good idea of those important earnings that are in here. And maybe you come across a ticker that you didn't really pay attention to, or that's not in your main watch where you're like, yeah, like for example, DR Horton's going to report. Yeah, I want to know how housing starts are doing, right? Like we've got super high interest rates. We've got a housing market. Doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of action. We are in the moving season. Like this is the season. I want to know what DR Horton is gonna report there. So again, the tools are designed to help you. It's one of those things where the more you put into this in terms of like learning some of the different procedures, the more you're going to get out of it because eventually it's going to save you time once you're comfortable with it.
Real quick, I'm just gonna write down Netflix. For July 18th.
This is great, right? This is great. This is the type of stuff. Those of us that, and another endearing term here, those of us that are addicted to the market, that are constantly thinking about our financial future, growing net wealth, family, the whole nine yards, like, you never kind of turn that off, right? Like if someone's talking about how a particular business is, you might be kind of listening and thinking, yeah, I wonder how that can apply to the stock, or I wonder what other stocks that might apply to. We're a different breed. That's just how it is. And like I'll be driving sometimes and I'll see chart formations on the horizon, and I have to like slap myself, like snap out of it. Like you're on the road, man. It's not chart formations in the hills. But the reality is you're kind of always thinking about that. And if you got a tool that can help you get all of that information, you never really turn that off, and you're always prepared. And you'll find out that you start missing less things. At least that's kind of how it's been in my experience.
Let me ask you really quickly. I know we just got a couple more minutes here, but I just want to ask you, this is something I've been looking to learn more about. I don't know if this is in development or not, or maybe it already is. I don't know. So is there an app for Benzinga Pro?
Okay. So there's a couple of different caveats here. I'm going to try to answer them all so you'll know exactly where you stand here. There is an app for Benzinga in the Apple and the Google Play Store. Now, that app is not a port or a copy of the Benzinga Pro platform. However, it does have some blended or crossover functionality. So, for example, on the app, you can actually set up some of your alerts here. I don't know if you've caught it, but in the bottom right corner, you've seen some alerts pop up as we're having our discussion here. It's covered by our picture, so our viewers might not have found it. But you can set up any of the alerts that you're getting so that you actually get your alert on your phone. That's number one. So it's all controlled from Pro, but the app is listening. And if you step away from your desk to go to a meeting, go to lunch or whatever, you can still get some of those alerts. Now, those alerts are going to be news-based predominantly right now until we add some of that functionality. But they're there for you. Also, the chat rooms are there. Now, I know here at CTU, you guys have your own community, your own tight-knit chat rooms. So maybe this isn't a mover for you, but I can tell you that our community loves trading with like-minded traders, and being able to take that community on the go. Again, if you get stuck in a bad meeting that you don't want to be in, or whatever the case is, you can take that with you. Now, you can use Pro on your mobile device, but it's not app related yet. Basically, what you do is you just open up your web browser and you go to the Pro website, and it will fit it to your phone. Here's the caveat that I want to give you all. Remember, when this program was designed, it was not designed for a mobile device. So I'm looking at this calendar. This might be very difficult for me to see on a phone screen. Better still, if I go to my main workspace here, like I can't really do this on a phone. Like this is a setting for the desktop. Okay. Like I'm not necessarily going to be looking at a relative volume scanner on my phone and then make a trade off of it. Like I want to have this a little bit bigger. I want more to be going on. Now, one of the things that is on the development pipeline for the future, and sorry I had to save this for the end, we are looking to have some type of downloadable app. It'll first come in a desktop version, right? Which means you can install Benzinga Pro on your computer. You should have better performance because it's not being limited by the web browser that you're using. If that is successful, it'll be fairly easy to then create a mobile version of that. But again, I stress, be careful, because in Pro here, there's really no limits. Like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tools on the screen. I don't think I could see 5 tools in one screen on a mobile device. So maybe you just want to have 2 tools. Like for example, I use the movers tool. I use this workspace on my phone. If I'm like out somewhere, I want to see, okay, what stocks are going to gap up? I can split screen my phone and see this. That's not a problem. So the long and short is there's no Pro app yet. There is an app that kind of interfaces with Pro. You should check it out. And then apps are coming later in the future. Let me give you one more little quick tip here. Anyone, CTU or otherwise, anyone that has Benzinga Pro always has access to our beta site. So our developers are constantly adding to this platform. You know it, you've seen it. We're constantly refining things. We're constantly making things better. And you do not have to wait for a new release in order to try that. Unlike other companies, you can actually try what's under construction. That's up to you if that's what you want to do. So you can actually go to probeta.benzinga.com. I'm going to go ahead and throw my colleagues' phone number and email. So anyone that wants to get set up with Pro, please reach out to James. He's the best, and he will find you the cheapest price. But I'm also going to post in here the link to the beta site. Okay, so any customer can go to probeta.benzinga.com, and you can add the /dashboard if you want, and you can log into the beta site. So let me give you an example here. Here's the chart tool, which is basically just the details tool. If I click on overview, let me go to, it's not going to be for SPY here because there are none. Let me change it to Apple. Take a look at this. All right. One of the things that we've added recently, we have all of that analyst ratings data, but one of the things we really wanted to give users is a really quick at a glance view where you can kind of synthesize that data and make a decision off of it. So here you go. Here's the analyst trends. We're basically showing you how many ratings there are in the different months at the different levels. Then we're giving you an aggregate score here. Now, just as before, if you wanted to actually go in there and see that specific information, the data is still the same. It's right here. We've kind of added this little thing at the on the overview screen to kind of make it a little bit easier. We're constantly taking feedback from the community. We're constantly improving the product, and as a result, you're going to see stuff like this. I have another map here called Sector Overview. We're adding a heat map tool that we're going to expand on, and what I'm going to use this for, I'm still in the process of constructing some of this, is trying to figure out what sectors are going to be hot, what sector, what's kind of going on. Here's an example. Again, all of these are kind of reset because the site's under construction, but normally I have Qs, Dow, and SPY here, and it gives me a heat map of what's going on within that environment, or what's going on in those different markets. So there's tons of different stuff that you can do, and if you want to try the cutting edge, you can go ahead and go on over to pro.benzinga or probeta.benzinga.com.
Jeez. So there's like something new every day, I feel like, or maybe every time that you come on CTV airwaves. Benzinga is a great platform, but it's always improving. And like you had said, it's not a one-man operation. You have a whole team of developers behind you. I'm looking forward, hopefully, we'll say, towards getting an app, officially there. But I know the desktop version coming first. I like that you had mentioned the movers thing, because that's something I was actually thinking about with my phone. So if you do that yourself already, that's going to motivate me to try that myself there.
Yeah, I would say a solo newsfeed, a movers detail combo, and the chat rooms are the primary thing that I use on my mobile device. And it saved me, right? I've needed to quickly look something up, have a little tab open, and we're able to do that.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, Ryan, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
We got Grant here, one of our students here, and he's been tuning in the whole time. So I think he already has Benzinga, might I say. So he just wrote to us. He said, thanks, Ryan and Josh. Lunch calls. And I think that's a great segue to end this Traders Talk podcast. So really quick, Ryan, how can we learn more about Benzinga? I know you mentioned just before your colleague James and the pro beta link there, but how else can we learn more about Benzinga altogether?
Okay, well, first of all, you can just head on over to pro.benzinga.com. And if you've never been there before, you can actually start a full-blown trial, no money down, nothing like that. Just go ahead and start a trial. Try it out for 2 weeks. That, to me, is going to be the quickest way. If you want to know about it, get involved, try it. You can go to YouTube and you can watch me do the live trading every morning where I'm using this as my predominant tool, but why not just try it yourself, right? Put it to the test right away. Put your what you need, your strategy, your scan. Go ahead and check that out. We have a ton of help videos. Really quickly here, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. When you first log in, if you click on the welcome page, first of all of these are videos. All of these bullet points here are videos. So, for example, if you want a dashboard rooted in financial info, this is probably the first link that you should click on. But if you want to really kind of dive in, click on the pro course at the bottom. This is a video-based course that will walk you through all of the different tools. And remember, you can start this with a free trial. You don't need to pay in order to access this content. Otherwise, head on over to Benzinga's YouTube. You can watch me use it every morning.
Well, you're excellent to begin with, so I think that's a great idea, but also definitely make sure you go to pro.benzinga.com to check out these great videos. Ryan, thank you so much again for coming on C2 Airwaves. And hey, for all of our students like Grant, Leda, I see Barbara here still, Kathleen, got actually a bunch of us joining us here still. We're going to take a small intermission, head back to our trading room, status quo, normal day here, and we'll have our next audio broadcast there exclusively at 2:30 p.m. Eastern going into the afternoon. And actually, on top of that, Ryan, coming up later today, we have our advanced trading class, phase 3. That's actually, we're going to be doing live trading, but you know what? We're going to be scanning that whole afternoon. I'll be showing Benzinga live myself in that class. So how about that?
Okay, awesome. And like same goes for you. If you ever need something, reach out. I'm happy to help you or anyone in your community anytime you have a question.
Excellent. Ryan, thank you again, man. Appreciate it. And looking forward to the next one.
All right. Me as well. Have a good one.
Take care.